Hi, this is Ray. So theoretically, we just need to get past Fascination Street by The Cure. You know, it's a strange thing. It's about, and it's really interesting too because it's almost like there's a parable for what we're doing right now, because we're talking about artists and creative people like that they are creative people from their high school. You know, and I think that's interesting that Noah Freudenberger wants, in on that, for instance, and so creative people from their high school, and what we're doing, like with this photographer, it's probably difficult for a lot of people to understand, and there's a lot of people who are kind of like, not really getting involved, like with photography. We could be talking about professional photography with photography, but so Fascination Street is a tough one. It's about a guy at his high school, and it's about like Robert Smith media persona, that his fear is that he's afraid that he's going to become a white supremacist. But that's the reason why he becomes a white supremacist, is because he was afraid that this was going to happen to him. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense, concerning like cultural diversity and cultural integrity. That's like what we're made of. You know what I mean? That's really what we're made of. And it's almost interesting. It's like, well, and who's it really all about? Well, maybe this is not the only person that you could talk about, like this person that Robert Smith was talking about, for instance, And so maybe we need to get past Fascination Street. You see what I mean? Maybe we need to just get past Fascination Street, If you're a Robert Smith Cure fan, you know what I mean? Because he's very aggressive, like, for cultural diversity in that way. You know what I mean? I just think that we're just getting into something strange, by getting into this one about Robert Smith's Cure fan, like, Robert Smith's Cure fan from his high school, and he's running into this thing about the Stations of the Cross, and so this one about the story of the Good Samaritan, that this is not really negotiable, that you could participate with like this version of a story of the story of the Good Samaritan. It's not really negotiable that you would, or that you can. I mean, no, you cannot. And so what we do have is like more cultural integrity. Like if you're listening to Robert Smith in this example, or Cyndi Lauper, or Boy George, and whatever happened to all of this stuff? Nothing happened to all of this stuff. And so it's just, it's strange. I don't know, myself personally, I would never think that any one person would be doing this to another person, like what they're doing to me and my photography, like on the internet. I don't understand it. And if it was this thing with like, for instance, Quentin Tarantino and Fiona Apple, then I might say, yeah, okay, so let's just do this and let's just do that. But at the same time, it's difficult for me to say that I would feel comfortable having this kind of go out to like so many different people, like in this world. At the same time, I couldn't even take responsibility for the fun and games, We get into this thing in the music studio sometimes, about kind of like a tabloid magazine that goes along with one of these creative-minded people, And what we need, like in the studio, is a little bit more of that cultural vibration that we were getting like from the 80s, like from Cyndi Lauper, about the individuality, of that artist, not who does that person think that is and who does that person think they are, and somebody else takes all this time for their own creative process, so who does anybody think they are, and like all this kind of stuff. Because the truth is that we don't have the power to miss out on the beauty of that person. We don't have the authority. We don't have the ability. We're not even that person who makes like some kind of decision about this other person, that's in the middle of this creative atmosphere, So what we really want to say is that, well, for instance, what I might say, just to, bring it back to life just a little bit, that, people are interested in anybody who has anything to offer. Anybody who has anything to offer is interesting and amazing. And we need to spend more time thinking about what this is that people have to offer. You know what I mean? Not just sit around talking about like, I am me and who those people are. You know what I mean? But the fact that it's almost a little fascinating that it's really beyond your control. You know what I mean? It's really beyond your control. Just like Jesus Christ was beyond the control like of Judas Iscariot, that we do not have like this authority over that other person in this world. You know what I mean? And that there's a legitimate approach to that creative atmosphere. If you're willing to accept that everybody, has a creative potential. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm just looking at. That we're just we're switched around into something that it just doesn't make any sense. And it works out to like this impossible type of an explanation. It doesn't make any sense. It's totally impossible that you do that to the story of the Good Samaritan. It doesn't really exist. It doesn't happen. But then they do it anyways, And like maybe that's the creative atmosphere, And so Robert Smith Cure fans, are you running off like to the Stations of the Cross? I hope not. You might as well run right over to the story of the Good Samaritan. You know what I mean?